Howdy. My name is Elizabeth Wyndon Heine, and on behalf of Mr. Joe Pettibon and the Enrollment and Academic Services Professional Development Committee, I would like to welcome y'all to the Fall 2019 Develop and Thrive Workshop and Pillars of Excellence Award Ceremony. Our speaker today has presented to some of the world's most effective leaders and business developers, including multi-billion-dollar manufacturers and small businesses. His clients include almost all the Fortune 500, from American Express to Walmart, and many universities, including Rice, Georgia Tech, and Penn State. He is an Amazon.com #1 best-selling author who has spoken on 5 continents and has been featured in Forbes and Inc. magazines. He is also a former professional stand-up comedian and a former Fortune 500 leader and small business owner who has developed and marketed products that are still being sold in 30 countries. Please welcome Garrison Wynn.
Thank you. So how do you get people to actually do what you want them to do? But take a look at the real truth about success. What is it the most successful people do that make them so successful? So we studied thousands of top performers in multiple industries, including education, to find that out. So we're talking about today, it's about leadership, communication, and change in relationships. But the bottom line is influence. Are you personally influential enough to make that happen? You have the trust and relationships in place to create a sustainable level of influence. That is the topic. So raise your hands if you're dealing with difficult people in your life right now. Come on, difficult people, come on, in your life right now. Now, those of you who did not raise your hands, you are those difficult people. That is you. That is you. That's you. Some of those difficult people that we deal with on a regular basis are the know-it-all experts. How many of you are dealing with a know-it-all expert in your life? And how many of you actually married one? That'll happen. God bless you. Somebody's doing this back there. That's bad. We get face-to-face with people, they know everything about everything. And our studies show the #1 thing to do is to praise their ability. It's very important that they know, they know something. #2 is to paraphrase what they say, repeat back to them what they say, and lead them to find their own errors, because you may have noticed that pointing out the mistakes is not working for you. And #3 is to focus on the solution. What is the goal of the know-it-all expert? What's the goal? To be right. How many people in this room have ever been right? Oh, come on. How many people have just been damn right? Come on, yeah. How many people in this room have been so right that nobody would talk to you? Just going to show up right? So years ago, I had a guy working for me. This guy was fantastic. He could do everything very well. And this person was also responsible for almost 28% of the entire company's revenue. One person working for me, I coached him up. Thank you. One day, #1 was wrong. Oh, yes, he was. And I was right. Oh, yes, I was. And I walked up to #1 that day and looked at him in all his wrongness. He looked at me in all my rightness. And I explained with great charismatic flair how incredibly wrong he was and how incredibly right I was. And I was so impactful and articulate that he agreed. And then he quit. Yeah. Learned a big lesson that day, and that is if you criticize others' ideas too much, they'll almost never use yours, no matter how good they are. So I started off working for a company, and I got promoted to manager, and then regional manager, and then finally up to corporate headquarters, and I was 27 years old and the boss. Oh yeah, young boss. Got any young bosses in here? Oh yeah, young boss. And all of my employees were older than I was. Oh yeah, young boss. Got to work that first day, and I met my people. I called them my people. I said, people. My infinite wisdom, I will lead you to the promised land of success, all your hopes and dreams and ideas and innovations. Forget about all that. We're doing things a special way, and that way is called my way. If it's not my way, it's the. Was I effective? No. They made up a special name for me. They called me punk-ass manager. They called me. It is hard to be effective when you're a punk-ass manager, and I learned a big lesson that day, and that is, if you make people feel important, that you and what you have to offer is a lot more important to them. People don't choose what's best. They don't choose the best idea, the best process, the best concept. They choose what they're comfortable with, whether it's the best or not. If there was one definable best, everybody would choose that and nothing else would be considered. Decision-making doesn't work that way. So when it comes to being effective and influential and people working together as a team to support a vision, it is all about judgments. So raise your hand if you've been judged. Who's been judged? Raise your hand if you have judged. And how many of you would never raise your hand regardless of anything that I say? Thank you. So here's our experiment. What I'd like you to do, I want you to go ahead and kind of just, without talking, just kind of identify a partner next to you. Just kind of pick a partner. If you don't have a partner, that means that you're alone, I guess, but whatever. But I want you to go ahead and just kind of look in your partner's eyes for a second. Just deeply, stare deeply in your, there's no touching. No, there's no touch. I didn't say touch anybody. Stop it. Stop touching her. Stop it. Let's try that again, okay? That was you're a grabby group. Okay, look, without touching your partner, ma'am, without touching your partner, and if you're looking at me, you're not doing it. Come on, look at her. Come on, look at her. So look at your partner. Come on, you can do it. Look at your partner's eyes, and as you're looking at your partner's eyes, ask yourself this question: do you see anything weird in there? Yeah. That's called judgment. That is called judgment. So who here? You stop looking. Stop it. Who here in this room believes they're fair? Fair person, totally fair, never judged. Ma'am, you never judged anybody. You've never judged a student or a coworker or faculty. How many people here are liars? Liars. We are walking, living, breathing judgment machines. We just judge all the time. Who here has ever had to evacuate for a hurricane or a flood or a natural disaster? Yeah. Had to evacuate Houston, Texas for a hurricane. Then had to come back in and re-evacuate afterwards. Had to come back into town. So I'm coming back into town. I got lost in the outskirts of town, pulled into a town called Waller, which I thought was an adjective. Turns out it's a town. Anyway, so I pull in this gas station. Sitting at this gas station is this crusty old guy, judgment. And this guy is so old, he looks like he's not going to live through the conversation. He's an old guy. He's got like fishing hooks in his hat. Get that far away disturbed. Look at his eye. And I get the feeling I'm not going to get very good directions from this guy, judgment. Said, excuse me, sir, I'm trying to get back to Houston. Can you help me? He's like, what road you come in on, boy? I said, there's one road and we're both on it together. So this guy's not the sharpest knife in the drawer, judgment. What we refer to in Texas as being one enchilada short of a combo plate. So, it's a lot funnier when I say that in New York City. Anyway, what I do is build some rapport. Sometimes when it comes to relationships and getting along with each other, it's the speed at which we can connect. So I'm thinking, how quickly can I connect with the gas station man? So I'm hungry, so I'm thinking food. I said, sir, I'm hungry. We have food in common, right? So I said, sir, I'm hungry. I'm looking for food, but I don't want fast food. And he goes, there's McDonald's in town that ain't that fast. So, so when I deem someone's kind of an idiot, I go to hand signals. I'm like, I, meaning me and not you, need directions to Houston, international symbol for Houston. Right? He said, son, pay attention to me when I'm talking to you, boy. I said, whatever. He goes, what you want to do now is go down the road a piece. I'm like, a piece of what? He goes, you know some miles, like 1 mile, 1,000,000 miles. Work with me, gas station man. He said, listen. I said, okay. So listen to me, son. He said, go down the road a piece. There's going to be like a highway. There's going to be a hump on that highway. Get up on top of that hump. When you're on that hump, look out your window. You see like a dirt road, the pond, a trailer park. Don't go in there. Stay on that main road and take a left to the old schoolhouse used to be. Paraphrase what he said. You're telling me to take a left at a landmark I've never heard of that no longer exists. What happened next happens to a lot of us. We're working hard, like you guys are, trying to get things done, trying to make things happen. And that is I snapped. Anybody ever snap? You snapped. I think you snapped recently, just looking at you. You snapped, yeah. Oh, yeah. You're that smiley face person. It seems so nice before they found all the bodies. It seems so nice. Yeah. But I snapped, and I lost it. I used the D word. I said, sir, you just dumb. He said, you know something, son, ain't the smartest man around these parts. Then again, boy, I ain't lost neither. We had the communication problem. I did. Big lesson in life. Big lesson in leadership. Big lesson in teamwork. Big lesson in influence. Big lesson in success. And that is everybody knows something you don't. And the minute you think you know it all, that moment wisdom leaves you like that. What's weird is what stays. Your intelligence, your time on the job, your experience. It's just the wisdom that leaves. Who here remembers the old TV show Lassie? Remember Lassie, the old show Lassie? Remember Lassie's human friend right now? Timmy? What would Lassie do when he saw little Timmy? He'd bark, row, row. What would Timmy do on the show? What, Lassie? What? There's a man with his foot caught on a railroad track? Timmy was fluent dog on that stupid show. Remember the TV show Flipper with the dolphin, the movie Flipper? What kind of noise did Flipper make? That was disturbing. That was like it's like a group of hungover flippers. Is that what it sounded like to me? The bottom line is Flipper is pretty much just a liquid Lassie. Put those two shows together, call it Flassie, same show. Now Lassie and Flipper didn't have to speak English or understand the language of the day, have the technology or the process or the information, have the most important information there was, which was go now. The message of those animal shows from the 50s and 60s and 70s is troubles of brew and follow the animal. They're a pretty good idea that everybody knows something we don't. The problem that we have day to day, as you know, is people are often wrong. So how many of you deal with people who are wrong? What do you tell them? Wrong. Maybe use like a leadership hand motion. That is wrong. Here's what I told the coworker one time. I said, I know you're intelligent. I just can't tell that by talking to you because you're wrong. Not good. So we looked at our research now. We, over 10 years, surveyed 5,371 top performers in multiple industries, including education, including universities. I got some help with Gallup on that. And the 5,371 made the list because we looked at these institutions and organizations of the people who are able to drive them forward, make change happen, get buy-in, and to create a certain level of success. So those are the organizations and institutions, and we looked for the people in those institutions that did that. That was our list of 5,371. Gallup said, okay, let's look at the top 1%. What did the top 1% do that made them better than a group that was already great? We found was the top 1% had a common trait, and that is they didn't use the word wrong. They said things like, I disagree with you, but I'm willing to listen. I've never heard that before. What you just said doesn't make any human sense. I've been here for 20 years, been here since Monday, but please tell me more. So what it was rather than you're wrong was a request for more information. Took that tactic, 3 things had happened. Number 1 is you might find out that you're much more in agreement than previously thought because you listened. Number 2, you listen and realize, yeah, they are nuts, but now you know why they're nuts, because you listened. And number 3 is they start to change their story to match your story in an effort to look right in front of other people. What's that about? Well, our research showed that, in fact, was the beginnings of trust. So how many people in this room have ever read a book on trust? Who's read a book on trust? Okay. Who's read a book? A book of any kind, just a book? Okay. Who's just drinking beer and watching TV? Okay. If you've never read a book on trust, you've missed very little. Very, very little. Yeah. Very little. Most books on trust say the exact same thing, literally, for 75 years. It takes time to build trust. You got to do what you say you're going to do over a period of time, and that sounds right, I guess. The research on that, over 6.5 years, looked at all previous white papers written on trust, previous research, all the old Dale Carnegie stuff went as far down as 1916. If you do research in the U.S. before 1916, a lot of people named Jedediah. It just gets weird. Trust me, start 1916. A lot of research pre-World War II, a lot of research post-World War II, a lot of research for some reason in the 70s in California, don't know why. Flattened out all the data, looked at it left and right. What we found is what we call the truth about trust, and I sugarcoat this next part of my message for a lot of audiences. I was told not to do it for you. So the truth about trust, the truth is you got people who've known you for 5 years and still don't trust you, and some have known you for 5 minutes and they do. Why would that be? It's because trust is built on the foundation of 2 things, compassion and competence. Compassion and competence. They believe that you care about them and their students and their education and their process and their money and their life. And they believe that you can do your job however they believe that's defined, which is usually based on how well you've consistently and clearly defined it for them. They believe those 2 things, you'll trust it pretty quickly. That's why some people are brand new and don't know a whole lot, and people listen to everything that person says. And this person is tenured, been around a long time and knows a lot, but people don't listen to anything that person says. How do you prove to somebody in a very short period of time that you do care, okay, that you do care and you are competent? So we interview people, the kind of people that you might deal with, and that includes faculty, that includes other staff members, it includes students and parents and people inside of the university system. And here is the amalgamated answer that comes back from that type of research at universities all over the country. I felt heard. I felt listened to. It was collaborative. I could see my input and their solution as proof of being heard. So all this, I felt heard, Sounded kind of fluffy to me. I'm kind of a science-minded guy. But my staff are all in their 20s told me that I might not be the sharpest knife in the drawer because I didn't see what I had, which is a gigantic body of information that shows that people feel heard and listened to. In the first 30 seconds or a minute and a half of any individual encounter, they start to trust you automatically. They don't even know why. So what is your name, ma'am? Holly. So, hey, Holly, listen. Brand new thing that we're rolling out, you know. My boss told me to tell you, right? So it's a brand new thing, and I'm going to kind of tell you how it's going to go. And Holly, maybe you listen to me because you know me, or you like me, or I'm your coworker, or your boss, or whatever. But that's about all the influence I have. That's it. What is your name, sir? John. Say, hey, John, same thing, brand new thing, rolling out. Going to be different. My boss told me to tell you, so we'll, you know, that's kind of how it's going to go. But before I get into all that, John, why don't you tell me what you're doing now a little bit, the way you're doing it now, that'll help me maybe explain things better. I'll let you go and talk about yourself and all your crap about yourself, John, going about yourself. Let you talk about yourself. Yeah, let you go, I'm there for you. And when you're through talking, I say the same thing I said to her. My information wasn't better. I wasn't smarter. I didn't have a better idea. I just let you talk. And what I did right there is way too simple for most people. And statistically, the more knowledge that you have, the more tenure that you have, the more education that you have, the more time on the job that you have, the less likely you are to do it. It is the pure and simple power of making people feel heard. We start looking at what successful people really do that are influential to get people to believe in and buy in, and how teams work well together and stand behind a vision, an idea, or a brand. How does that really actually work? And it turns out that when people feel heard and listened to, they're just more likely to be on your side, regardless of the context of the situation. So as simple as that is, we saw that everywhere. We looked at other research from Accenture and Harvard Review and Pew and all that. It seemed to show the same thing. It is the pure and simple power of making people feel heard. So you think, okay, Garrison, I get it. It's important to listen, and listening makes us influential and it can make us successful, and that's all true. But the question is, how well do you actually do it? So we're going to find out right now, today, in this room now, how will we actually listen. We'll do it with 2 listening tests. The first is call and response. I'll call you respond. Here we go. What do you call a funny story? A funny story is called a joke. What kind of noise does a frog make? Who said ribbit? Has anyone ever heard a frog say ribbit? Is that frog language? A frog? I think a frog would more likely say bud, wiser than say, okay. We'll say a frog says croak. You throw it over your shoulders. It's not a cape, it's a cloak. What do you call the white of an egg? No, it's called the white of an egg. I just said it. Don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. I did that for 500 trial attorneys in Los Angeles. All yoked, bloodbath, lawyers suing lawyers. It was horrible. Horrible. Let's try one more. What color is this piece of paper? White. What color is this piece of paper? White. What color is this piece of paper again? White. What do cows drink? What kind of sick person gives a cow milk? Who would give a cow milk? Honey, wake up the cows and give them their milk this morning. I give my cows beef and cheese and put leather jackets on them and give them butter. Cows love butter. We don't listen very well. Most research shows that 72 to 78% of all humans ever polled qualify as poor listeners. We don't listen very well, and it's typically not our fault. I thought everything was our fault. No, between the ages 0 and 5, human beings learn more than they're ever going to learn the rest of their life. So John, if you had 5 PhDs, which you don't, but if you did, you would still learn more between 0 and 5. In those formative years, if a child does not feel heard by the adults in their life, they don't possess that skill. Listening's not hereditary. Difficult to listen if no one listened to you growing up. Gonna blame the parents? Silence. Who has kids? Is it hard listening to kids? My daughter wanted if she could have a tattoo. I said, no, because you're in kindergarten. Nothing screams bad parenting like a tattooed 5-year-old. That's proof that you're a horrible parent. It can be difficult. But the thing about it is okay, what is listening really? I mean, why would I listen to somebody? I mean, let's say I work with somebody and trained them and taught them everything they know about everything, why would I listen to them? Why would I listen to somebody who I know doesn't know what I know? And it makes us think, is listening just something we do to be polite? Is it political correctness? Why do we actually listen? And the truth is, no, it's actually specifically scientific. So let's talk about the scientific aspect of listening that no one's really talking about. So you guys know you have different chemicals in your brain? Some of you more than others, bet you did last night, ma'am. Pointing at her because she's close. Let's just say this is a chemically balanced brain. If a chemically balanced brain, you react normally. This is a chemically imbalanced brain. You're going to underreact or overreact to things that happen to you throughout the day. Feeling pretty good. Shut up. I've had it. I'm out of here. There are gigantic chemical balances we know. And in the last 70 years, there's medication that can even those things up. And by the way, as an effective team member, if you need medication, please take it. I'd take both of yours now, John. All right. So, I have a general idea how chemicals work in the brain. When someone feels truly heard and listened to and they trust, when someone feels truly heard and listened to and they trust, when they feel that way, literally in that moment, literally, the pituitary gland squirts a fluid over the brain that puts that person in an anesthetized state. There's a long neurological explanation for this, but I call it being stoned on like. They will choose that person over that person, sometimes based on no other criteria. It's why people fall in love with each other and like to be with each other. It's why somebody will stay with the same university, the same plan, the same program, the same boss, the same process forever, regardless of measurable, tangible results. It is the pure and simple power of making people feel heard. When I think about that, I have a non-scientific example like a lot better than that, about the pure power of making people feel heard. Have you ever seen a really, like a really attractive woman walking down the street with a really goofy looking guy? This guy looks bad, and his car looks bad, and his clothes look bad. He's got no job, no sense, no future, no charisma, no hope, no nothing. You know what that is? That is one damn good listener, what that is. Yeah, what that is. Don't kid yourself. It is the pure and simple power of making people feel heard. Why this is important? We start looking at things. I've got a couple of industrial psychologists that work for me that glean through all this data. We start looking around for certain things, and we start to find that groups that listen to each other and groups that on anonymous surveys say they feel heard are the ones that do stand together and stand behind division and work together and have higher levels of employee retention and productivity and all that. So groups that listen to each other are more effective. Think about the people that you know, friends or family that you know listen to you, how much influence do they have over you? So it's very important. However, that leads us to something else. It leads us to difficult behavior. We've noticed that apparently being very good at what you do and talented and being difficult to work with go hand in hand. Some of the best people with the most talent are hard to work with, so being good at what you do and difficult are connected. So that means how well you can work with people and deal with people who have difficult behavior kind of defines your greatness as far as being influential. So what I'd like to do, and my next thing here is to kind of ask for a volunteer, if I can get, or I can pick a volunteer. John, would you like to volunteer, John? Sure. Give John a hand, come on. All right. Get up here. Take your time, John. You see, John, I'm going to say that John works for me, and he is by far the most talented person I have. He's just good at what he does. He's got talent. He's got drive, determination, and he does a very specifically effective job. The problem is he's a total jerk. I've had it with John. I've had it. I go home and how's work today? John, it's all about John. I got a head full of John. How you feeling? John, in my head. If I feel that way, who has the influence in our relationship? John. What do most people do? Nothing we can do. Stuck with him. Can't fire him because he's too good. We can't kill him because it's illegal, apparently. I'm just stuck with John. What most people do is they come to work and they are distracted. So me dealing with John, I get distracted. I also get a little bit kind of depressed because it's so hard. And all of a sudden, I'm not as good as I can possibly be. So now I'm not good. I'm upset with John. John's not good. Or I run him off, and he goes and does a great job someplace else. That's common. And what I'm going to tell you next, most of you will never do. Most people will never do it. But if you will do it, dramatically changes your ability to be influential. It's what the most influential people actually do, and here it is. So before I talk to John, I'm going to say to myself that maybe some of this is me. Maybe I'm doing something to fuel his jerkedness. The minute I take a look at the role that I play in somebody else's bad behavior, my animosity drops automatically. Psychological fact, take a look at the role that you play in somebody else's bad behavior, you're not so freaked or disturbed by that bad behavior. So now that I decided maybe some of this is me, I don't know that it all is, or I don't know, I just know that it's possible. My animosity drops, head gets clear. Let me go talk to John. Hey, John. I've been thinking about things, and I've been thinking that some of this, is me. And I was just kind of maybe try to strike a deal with you, to get you to be, if I can get you to be more positive and effective in meetings. I mean, we know that you do a good job, but just your hands are good, your mouth is bad. You got good hands or bad. If we can get you to be more supportive and more supportive of me, if I can get you to do that and be just more supportive of the team in general. We all know how great you are, but of everybody else in general, if I can get you to do that, I'll let you tell me how I can manage you or work with you better, because I think I could do a better job. Does that make sense? Is that enough of a bargain? Yeah. Fantastic. Give me a hand. Give me a hand for being a jerk. Thank you. You want to be right, you want to keep and attract top talent. You want to be right, you want to get the job done. You want to be right, you want to be a team. You want to be right, you want to stand behind the vision together. You want to be right, you want to be effective. You want to be right, you want to be influential, and most of us want to be right. So I'll tell you a story. Is there any HR people here today? Raise your HR people here. Raise your hand. Nobody? Okay, that's good. I can tell the story. All right. So Sit down, ma'am. I'll word it very carefully. I got a lady that works for me that's a crazy person. She was fired for gross misconduct twice before I hired her, once from Oracle. But she's an internet marketing money-making machine and helped my companies double our revenue in the recession. I'm keeping her. I keep her away from other employees, but I'm keeping her. Her door kind of goes to the street, doesn't go in, kind of goes out. When I first brought her in, I sat her down, I said, look, I know there are some issues, me too. I own the company, but don't run it anymore. I speak at conventions like my contractors do, and I'm not the most mature person for my age. I'm kind of overreactive or hyperactive or immature. So what I'm trying to tell you, when there's a problem between you and I, it won't always be you. I think it'll be you a lot, won't always be. That was 13 years ago. And the problems that made her unemployable for others have not shown up for us. Now, she's a weird woman with a weird daughter. It's just freaking weird. But not unemployably weird. I'm keeping her. People try to headhunt her away from my organization every single month. I'm keeping her. You want to be right? You want to be effective. You want to be right? You want to work as a team. You want to be right? You want to get results, and most of us want to be right. Reminds me of a story of a guy on the freeway. He's in Houston on I-10. Traffic's terrible. Cars are coming everywhere. He's driving down the freeway. His wife calls his cell phone. Honey, be careful. I'm watching the news. This is a crazy man going the wrong way down the freeway. He goes, no, honey, there are thousands of them. Sometimes it's you. Sometimes. Yeah. We found that the most influential people that had the highest level of success, were they able to take a look at the role that they played in somebody else's behavior. There's an old saying, can't change people. Oh, yes, you can. Yeah, every day. But you can only change them by looking at how your behavior triggers their behavior. If you're willing to do that, you have great influence and can change how people act and react towards you all the time. That leads to something else. And what about behavior you don't understand at all? How many people here have their own teenagers? Yep. How many of you deal with teenagers? Yep. My teenager came to me and said, Dad, I made a decision. Go ahead and dye my hair blue, all blue on top, totally blue on top, and the earrings all the way around the ear like that, right? And the shirt stops here and the skirt starts there, like those two are gonna get back together and meet again at some point. Short skirt, fishnet stockings. I said, son. And that's a true story. So, our own behavior and behavior we don't understand takes a lot of free rent in our heads. We get this idea that everybody has a different agenda. But how am I supposed to be a team member? How am I supposed to be influential or successful if I believe that all humans have a different agenda? But the truth is every single person you know wants the exact same thing. All humans want three things. They want love, money, and prestige. I'll rephrase that. They want sincerity, they want people to be real. They want multiple solutions for a single problem. And they want to look good in front of the people they want to look good in front of. That's what all humans want. So number one, are you real or are you fake? Are you really the person in front of your friends and family that you are at work? You feel like a work mask. Who's ever seen someone get promoted and walk differently? What's wrong with her? She just made supervisor. She's walking like this. Who's ever met a fake salesperson? Fake salesperson? Hey, good to see you. Hi, good to see you. Hey, good to see you. Hey, good to be here. So glad to be here. You're my favorite customer. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I felt we had some synergy. Yeah, that's called bullshit is what that's called. And people know it. They know it. We trust people because we know they're being who they are. How many of you deal with real characters? Come on, you got them. Real characters. Why do we trust real characters so much? Because we know they're being who they are. Have you noticed we let real characters get away with stuff we don't let other people get away with? What happened last night? Oh, Jimmy just got drunk and sold some laptops. He'll bring them back. You know Jimmy. You know Jimmy. Like, what? What happens if you're phony and screw up? Not so well forgiven. So whoever you are, be that. We found that when people are being who they are the most trusted. So whoever you are, be that. You've seen some interesting characters in your life being whoever they are, and you'll notice that you trust them because you know they're being who they are. Now, the University of California and Pew together did some research that showed that you can meet someone who you don't like their personality, you don't like what they say, or don't like how they act. But if you know they're really being who they are, not being phony, you just will choose their idea or want to believe in them more than someone who's phony. So what that means is whoever you are, obviously you have to be within the confines of some level of professionalism. But whoever you are, if you're being who you really are, people will trust you much more than if you're not. It's hugely important. Number two, do you have multiple solutions for a single problem? You're the kind of person who goes, there's one way to do it. They built the university around my body. There's just one way. The minute that flies out of your mouth, everybody under 30 knows you're full of it. If you're under 30 years old, you know one thing above all others because you were raised with computers from the crib, and you know there's more than one way to do everything. And the safety director at a big safety convention said it best. Everybody gather around for safety convention. Let's talk about there are 3 ways we can do this. 2 of them will kill you. I do it this way. It's called the non-death method. It's my favorite method. I'm not saying your way is wrong, man. We may do it one day that way. Today's not that day, but one day. We do it this way because it's repeatable. It's got a good track record. We've seen it work over and over again. So people need to know that you're not stuck pushing a single agenda. A lot of people don't understand why their ideas aren't recognized or why their better ideas aren't seen as good. It's because if people think that you're pushing a single agenda, they think that you have some other motive. People need to know that you're open, that you've got multiple solutions for a single problem. When I think about multiple solutions for a single problem, there's a lady down in Florida, and she's a living embodiment of multiple solutions for a single problem because she's a veterinarian and a taxidermist. I know, I know. Her motto is either way, you're getting your dog back. Either way. That's right. Multiple solutions for a single problem. And that is a real story in Ocala, Florida. I saw it on the sign. Number 3. Can you make people look good? Prestige. Can you make people look good in front of the people they want to look good in front of? Can you talk to somebody and teach them something and have them go out and take credit for it? And why are we talking about these 3 things? Because the people know that you're real. You're being who you really are. And they know that you know there's more than one way to solve a problem. You're not stuck with a single agenda, trying to push a single agenda. And they know that they'll look good to others by dealing with you. If they know those 3 things about you, they'll listen to every single thing you say, every time you open your mouth for the rest of your life. It is the foundation of influence, and why some people are so incredibly successful at being able to drive a vision forward, being able to get buy-in on an idea, and working well as a team makes them great leaders. It's really what the foundation of what an influential person actually does. But it does lead to something else, and that is believability. You guys know some things may be true, but not that believable. Who watches late night television, late night TV? See things on late night TV that may be true, but that believable, right? One of my favorites, How to Lose Weight Without Dieting or Exercise. Pretty much just leaves disease. There's no other way, and I'm so sorry. Who watches old TV shows? Come on, who watches Nick at Night, old TV shows? Who remembers the old TV show Bonanza? Was that a believable show? For those of you too young to remember Bonanza, Bonanza literally was the story of a 50-year-old dad and his 3 48-year-old sons. That was the show. It was in no way believable. In no way. We get face to face with people who believe things so strongly they're just looking for reasons to prove what they already believe is true. And that makes change, new ideas, change management very difficult. So let me show you the change idea or change management meeting that never works. Everybody gather around. Let's talk about the new way. First of all, the old way was bad. It was bad, John. The old way was just bad. It didn't work. It was bad. New way is good because it's new. List all the features and benefits. What do you say, John? I don't want new. I'm old school. I've been here 20 years. I want to put white out on the computer screen and do it the old way. The real reason people don't want to change is because nobody wants to be a senior beginner. They want to wake up and realize what they used to know is no longer valid. So they shoot holes in the new way, and they cling to the old way because it makes them smart. I mean, John, if I said, hey, listen, starting next week, John, everything you've learned here at this university is going to change. I know you've been here a long time, totally changed, but don't worry, because starting on Monday, 19-year-old Landon is going to train you. You've now lost the will to live, John. Yeah. So what does work? Let's talk about change management that actually works. Let's talk about the new way. First of all, you guys, before we get into the details of the new way, let me show you, especially John, let me show you how your existing knowledge, what you've learned all these years, actually has some similarities to our new direction. So let me show you how your existing knowledge of all these years is still valuable. And I make every connection I can, if I dig a few things up, every connection I can find to show you how what I know you already know now has some similarities and how your existing knowledge and experience is valuable. Once I get you to see how the new way has some similarity to what you already know and have done, then I show you how it's different and maybe more effective. You want to get buy-in on a new idea? Similarities first, differences second. Similarities first, differences second. A lot of people get frustrated trying to get buy-in on a new idea. Why don't we use the new software, the new this, and new that? They don't understand why people will stick with something that is not as effective. It's very difficult for people to decide that everything they've learned for 10 or 15 years is no longer effective. It makes them feel like they don't possess any value. And once you invalidate somebody like that to say that their existing knowledge isn't important, they don't want buy-in. Right now, people retire in droves when the new software comes in because somebody sits them down and tells them how much different it really is and how nothing they've had before compares to it. They want out. The truth is you can find similarities in anything. I can take literally a yardstick, okay, and a blade of grass and a car and an apple, and we can draw some level of, this is crazy that is, something you've done in your past, something that you've done, okay, has some connection to that. So if you use the old software, then you've done something with software, and I'm going to guess the software you used to have had the exact same goal or a similar goal than what you're trying to do now. Okay, so whether it's the goal or whatever it is, extremely important. And I want to talk about this briefly because I see what's happening right now in a lot of organizations, and we've seen it at universities too, where people feel like that they don't understand what's happening and they disagree with the change. Well, if you tell them that something is in no way similar and you invalidate their existing experience, yeah, they're going to fight the change all the way. So you want to get buy-in, similarities first, differences second, similarities first, differences second. That leads to something else. And that is dealing with people who've been around a long time. So how many of you deal with people who've been around a long time? Come on, long time, come on. How many of you deal with people you thought were dead and there they were? Never happened? Never happened? I thought she died in 2006. She looks good. She looks good. She looks good. Who in this room's been around a long time? Who's been at the university for longer than 25 years? 25 years? Got 25 right here? Anybody got 25? What about 35? Got 35? Got 35? Wait a second, just on one hand. 35? Is that you? 36? 37? Just 35? Anybody beat 35 going once? 35 going twice? There's not some old guy napping back there who's been around. That guy? Is that here? Okay. It's just you, sir. What is your name? Clay. Clay, you've been around a long time, haven't you? You've seen some things change, haven't you? When you first got here, right after the Spanish-American War, when you first got in, right? Things were different back then, Clay, right? But when people see Clay doing things a new way, they know change is here for real. Clay's on Snapchat, I better get cracking because change is here for real, right? For real. And that makes you the catalyst for change. So as valuable as you've been all these years, Clay, you're probably the most valuable right now. Give it up for Clay, important. And why is that kind of seniority that Clay has so important on a team? Because Clay will tell you, there's that time when there's some young person can't solve a problem. Is that true? Some young person? There's not an app for that. There's no app, not an app for that. There's not an app for that. There's no app. There's no electricity. Help me, Clay, help me. And Clay goes, I'll fix it with a Q-tip. Bam. I don't know why it's a Q-tip. We know Clay's valuable. I said that to say this. The number one thing that all humans value is feeling valuable. The number one thing that all humans value is feeling valuable. And that's not my opinion or a feel-good story or a theory. That's the cumulative results of 70 years of Gallup surveys in 46 countries and 27 languages. Is what we actually really know about humans. And we make people feel valuable, they'll value you. So whether you're trying to bring students in to the university or help them have a better experience while they're here, or support the faculty in the educational process, if you make people feel valuable, they will value you. So what it comes down to is engagement. To get people behind a vision, what the research shows specifically, the people behind a vision, you have to show them their value. So let's talk a little bit about that. So let me explain what engagement means. How many people have ever heard the term employee engagement, right? Okay, so it's about engagement in general, but we'll use this as an example. So an engaged employee feels three things. Number one, they feel that they're supported by the team around them. I feel that my boss and the people around me support me. I feel supported by the people I work with, number one. Number two, they understand how their job they do every single day, no matter what it is, helps the organization as a whole. That means whether you're mopping the floors or whatever you're doing, creating whatever you're doing, that they understand, that person knows how that particular job helps the organization as a whole. And number three, they see a future. they see maybe a promotion or a career, or maybe they just see a job they like coming to every day. That's what an engaged person looks like. People who believe they have a good job do a good job, all right? Opinion creates productivity. Very important. So having said that, let's take a look at some of the latest stuff we have here from Gallup. So if you'll take a look right now, if you'll see this, this actually is the U.S. working population. 30% are engaged. If you went to Gallup.com, which showed that 30% are engaged on the job. 55% are not, and 15% hate your guts, hopes the building burns down and you're in it. That's what they believe. So 30%. That's a normal number. They say it goes between 30 and 34% in the last 5 years or so, okay? Now, if we ignore people, it's what up, shut up, just don't bother me, do your job, shut up. If you ignore people, it becomes terrible. Engagement goes down. We look at exit interviews, and 79% say the reason they quit was nobody's talking to me, nobody pays attention to me, nobody's hanging out with me, nobody answers my questions, nobody pays attention to me. 79% have put that as one of the reasons they left in an exit interview. Let's just work on weaknesses. Let's try that. After all, look, 45% it works. I'll do that with John. Hey, John, good to see you. Let's talk about your weaknesses. Man, hey, yeah, let's talk about the 5 ways you suck. Yeah, all right. It's this is bad, and this is bad, and this is bad, and this is horrible. And I believe you set a student on fire. That's bad. That is bad. So my idea, you put him out. You did put him out. So here's my recommendation. Don't be so terrible. Don't suck. Thank you. All right. So the problem with this is it works. The problem with that is it actually works. 45% increase. Look at that. More people hate your guts, it's true, but 45% increase. And that's why we do it. We sit people down and we talk about their weaknesses. However, there is a side effect. The side effect is this. It creates a level of a lack of awareness and complacency. People start to emotionally check out on the job when people talk to them that way, and they'll get complacent. Even though in an anonymous interview they'll say, oh yeah, I'm engaged, the truth is they may say they're engaged, they don't really act like it is the problem. They also have a tendency to leave after a while, and it turns out that the top performers who have the highest level of performance will say they're engaged and then quit all the time. So this is not really doing very well, and it's tempting. After all, if to solve a problem, we look at the problem, right? Let's find the problem. So it's not working very well at all. It's not good. So we looked at what is working, and so here is what is working. Let's talk to John. Hey, John, good to see you. Hey, listen, man, there's some things going well. I just talked to my boss. He said we need to meet and talk about what's working. We got this going well, this is going well, this is going well, this is going well, that's going well. There's 2 things we need to work on, right? There are 2 things that are not good at all. So we can work on those 2 things. Make sense? So I need you to work on those 2 things. Thank you. I do that, I double my engagement. It goes to 61%. People hate my guts, goes down to 1%. It's amazing. So that's powerful. And this is what engagement surveys and people who sell employee engagement surveys like Gallup, they say. And they sell you the survey, and then they sell you the training program to correct it. And that's great, and I believe that. However, I wanted to get it from another source. Nothing against Gallup, they do sell this stuff. So I've been doing what I've been doing today for the last 25 years. And in that time, I've spoken to all the Fortune 500 pretty much, from American Express to Walmart to GE to Berkshire Hathaway to AT&T, you name it, I've been their keynote speaker. I think everybody but Google, I think, right now. So I've done all those events over 25 years. About 7% of those organizations I have some relationship with, either consulting or something. So I decided, why don't I call the ones that we knew, spent millions of dollars on employee surveys and the training based on the results of those surveys, see what they said. And I'll just tell you what they said. They said 75%, and 77%, and 81%, and 79%, and 70%, and 68%, and 65%. It's actually a low number, 61%. So what that means is it's actually working. And specifically what the research showed was this. We take a look at engaged employees, contractors, coworkers, and you could put anybody on that list, anyone who's engaged. And 40 times more likely to recommend you, according to the Gallup survey. 15.5 times more likely to stay with you. 9 times more likely to enjoy working with you. 43% safer and more focused on the job. This is such a big factor that if you go to Royal Dutch Shell or Chevron or Exxon, this is the core of all their safety programs now. They believe that engaged employees not only are safer on the job, like the research shows, but other research shows they actually look out for each other and watch each other's back. So they're watching themselves and each other better. So this is the core of these safety programs. I know that because I speak at the safety conventions, and that's what's going on. 86% more likely to be loyal to the school, to you, to an idea. 4.5 times more likely to recommend their organization's products and services. So making people feel valuable and focusing much more on strengths and weaknesses allows everything else you do to get better results. The key to success is doing sometimes very little of what you do badly and a lot of what you do well. If you focus on your strengths, that's where you can grow. On your weaknesses, maybe you can, but maybe get some help. But if you do nothing but focuses on people's weaknesses, they'll ultimately just feel weak. And sometimes you can match a strength with a weakness. If you're very, very good building relationships and not so good with paperwork, build a relationship with somebody who's good at paperwork, I guess. But you can use those things to enhance what you're doing. So really important that sometimes teams have a hard time working together because they simply aren't treating each other in that fashion. If you were to go ahead and sit down your kids at home or a student or anybody you know and say, hey, here are the things I think that are going really well. Boom, 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 boom. Here's what you can work on. The difference is amazing. But more importantly, in the last 5 years, a survey was done with Gen Z, and half of Gen Z, by the way, is in middle school, so, but Gen Z, and then, if we point that out, Gen Z's coming, kind of. But then the first part of Gen Y, I don't like to use those terms because I don't think 25-year-olds and 34-year-olds have much in common. So we'll just say you just take from about 19 to about 26. And that age group, the research we saw was very interesting because it showed that if you basically discussed something with them up front that was a bad reflection on them and held them accountable for bad behavior, that was the filter which they viewed everything else you said. So if you started out with a criticism, they never got past that. They would rate the entire thing you said as a criticism. We were shocked to show videos that were completely 100% positive toward young people. Positive, 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 positive. It was a 3-minute video of nothing but positive stuff. But it started out talking about some problems they may have and about how they were different from other generations, and there were some issues with that, and then nothing about how fantastic they were. They rated the entire thing as a criticism, even if it was totally positive. So that's the filter which they view. Very important. So sitting someone down, anybody, especially young people, and saying, hey, here's what's working. Here's what's working, okay? Here's what's working, boom, boom, boom. Here's what you need to work on. Simply good stuff first, bad stuff second, as simple as that. We found there are some people who just have a hard time with that. They want to sit people down and talk about the real problems that they have up front. It's just not working. And I'm not sure it ever really worked, but with younger people, not working a bit. So hugely important. But it leads to this. Does that mean that satisfaction creates loyalty? Well, kind of, but it really has a lot to do with you. What does it feel like to work with you? What does it feel like to be on your team? Do they feel heard, listened to, cared for? What does it feel like to work for you? They feel heard, listened to, cared for. Are you doing something for people they could not do for themselves? A dog isn't loyal because you love it and pet it and feed it. A dog is loyal because you scratch him in places he cannot reach. You bring me anybody's dog right now, and I'll scratch them on the top of their head, wherever they can't get their paw. Scratch your dog where it can't scratch itself, and it'll fall anywhere. So what are we doing for people that can't do for themselves? And the answer? Clarity. Are you clear? Are you clear? Here's the thing. I wish I could tell you that intelligence was somehow the key to success, that I'm going to be so smart that I'm going to be successful. But of the 700 billionaires on the planet, only one has a genius IQ. Only one, yeah. Of 17 cities, 700 people were randomly selected. It was 2, 3, and 4. So the average person off the street was as many as 4 times more likely to have a genius IQ than a billionaire. Of the 10 highest IQs on the planet, 260, 230, 240. None of them are wealthy people running big organizations. They're all just regular folks with jobs. Yeah. We couldn't find that connection. What we did find was if you are very, very clear, then you are very influential. So how many people, who here knows someone who's not clear? Someone who's not clear? Who has like a relative who's not clear? Relative? Yeah. My Aunt Ethel's a genius and not clear. 85 years old, a genius and not clear. My dad's also 85. And my dad and I had not seen Aunt Ethel in about 20 years. So she lives in Savannah, Georgia. So we go to Savannah, Georgia to see Aunt Ethel, who's a genius and not clear. Aunt Ethel looks at me, looks at my dad, looks back at me. Here's what she said. She goes, you know something, Garrison? You look more like your daddy than your daddy looks like himself. What I mean is your daddy, who doesn't look like anybody now, did then, you know. No, we don't know. We don't know. It doesn't matter how smart you are if no one knows what you're talking about. It doesn't matter. So let me give you a very clear example on clarity. How many people in this room read the New York Times newspaper every single day? Raise your hand. Every day, New York Times? One person. One person. And of course, it's John. Would be John. One person. I did that in New York City 5 days ago with 1,100 people, and nobody raised their hand in New York. So not many people read the paper every day. Anybody want to know why people don't read this paper every single day? You know why? It's got big words in it. It's the last publication with national distribution written at a 12th grade level. It's simply harder to read. I read an article in the New York Times, and one article had the word egregious in it 3 times, which in fact is egregious. That is egregious. What is the most read newspaper in the country? Anybody know? Most read newspaper every day? USA Today. It's like the Fisher-Price paper. It's got colors and charts. It's so easy. 7th grade level, it's so easy. Matter of fact, if you don't understand USA Today, you may be too dumb to need news. You don't even need news. You don't need it. Don't need it. If our goal, sorry about that. If our goal is to get everybody on the same page, would we at least make that page a lot easier to read? It's interesting that the clarity is the foundation of value. People actually buy into what they understand quickly. Yeah, that's an interesting thing. We buy into what they understand quickly. So if something's too complicated or complex, we have a tendency to discard it. So that means that simple is the new smart. And if you can't simplify your information, the problem is people believe you don't understand it well enough yourself. I'll say it again. If you can't simplify your information, a lot of people believe you don't understand it well enough yourself. Here's how it works. It's just an ego thing. When someone's talking, and you're listening. When somebody's talking to you and you don't know what they're talking about, you go, I'm listening. I don't know what he's talking about. You're listening. You're going, I don't know. What you're not going to say is this: I'm sorry, I'm not a smart man. I don't get it. You know what you're going to say? You're going to go, I don't know what you're talking about. I think you don't know what you're talking about. So that's the natural. It's basically a defense mechanism. So it's important to understand simplification is huge. There are a lot of people out there who don't know why they're not more influential, and why somebody who's not nearly as smart as they are has the ear of the masses. Why is this working and that's not working? It's simply clarity. No one can truly buy into and use and believe in something they don't actually understand. And people are embarrassed to look dumb, so they won't ask questions. So they're going to either brand you as not knowing what you're talking about or go and do something else different from what you instructed them to do. So it's hugely important. It's a huge deal. And to get behind a brand or a vision, you have to have a clear picture of what it actually is. And why it's important to the people that you're trying to influence. I mean, if you're trying to bring people into the college, bring students in, are you trying to influence the students or the parents or both? What does that really actually look like? What does it really look like? And there's something that we call brand awareness. And there's some research we did specifically for you guys. So you guys have a very impressive brand. I mean, I was surprised. I mean, I know the brand, how people in places you wouldn't think know Texas A&M, they know Aggies everywhere. So someone's done some unbelievably fantastic branding because they know all over the place. Someplace all over the world. I mean, you can be at a little restaurant in Japan. It's got Aggies. He knows the Aggies, So, what, really? So it's impressive. The thing about it is, though, is what is the brand doing? So are you trying to get people who already believe in what you're doing? Are you trying to connect with parents, trying to connect with students? So it's that power of that brand. It's a lot easier to get behind a brand together and believe in it together if we understand what we're trying to do. Video, obviously, is very powerful. I saw a very good video you guys have. Important. What we're seeing right now, though, in the areas of recruitment are 1-minute videos, just 1 minute, that can go on Instagram and Facebook and any form of media. You can embed it into anything and it goes anywhere. You could target 1 million people with that video. So a lot of universities are using that in recruitment. It's 1 minute, and that 1 minute shows why you're different, why you're great, you know. You can even take some of the video, you got like a 2.5 minute video, you can take that and cut it up and make a 1 minute video. So very, very cool, very impressive. But I want to tell you, your brand is more well known than I know it. But I didn't realize that there's people sitting on the side of the road in some small country in Europe never heard of. They know. Somebody in Latvia goes, yes, Aggies. Like, I didn't even know where's Latvia, you know. So near Russia. It's impressive. So, but the reason we have to be careful and concerned about that is right now we are in what's called a talent war. And talent war means we got 6.1 million people looking for 7 million jobs. I speak in corporate America all the time. The number one problem they're having in corporate America is they can't find people. There are many companies that will be shutting down in the next 10 years. They simply just don't have employees. It also looks like that between the ages of 24 and 30, about 40% of those people aren't looking for a job. They've got a credit card and a laptop and live at mom and dad's house, and they're not looking for a job. They're at Starbucks now. They're not here. They're just out, not doing it. So that's a wholly different animal, you know. And you may have a kid like that as well. Remember, if you got 4 kids, nobody's got 4 good kids. No one has 4 good kids. I got 4 good kids. Liar. One's at home on the couch playing Xbox, and you know it right now, and you know it. So the percentage thing's always been there, but it's a tough situation. So that means we might have to explain to people why going to college is even a good idea these days. There's a lot of information out there, young people that, a college degree's not worth it, it's not going to help. Well, to be a regional manager for Subway restaurants requires a college degree, just so you know. To be a regional manager, there's a lot of reasons you should have a college degree. So the word on the street about not having one, it's kind of tough. So but the thing about it is that it leads us to a very interesting stat. Right now, the 70% of all college freshmen are female nationwide. 70% of all college freshmen are female nationwide. Last year, 60% of all bachelor's degrees in the U.S. were given to women. So boys aren't going to college as much. We're seeing that. And also, that might affect how you recruit and how you think about who you're actually going after. So sometimes you have to target the market that exists, not the one that you wish actually existed. I'm talking to the superintendents of high schools about making this thing, getting boys into school, you know. But also, my favorite stat was that 19% of people between the ages of 20 and 30 were concerned about having a job. 19%. 81% were concerned about politics, the environment, and everything else. So for a lot of young people, the forefront of what's important to them are environmental issues. Interesting, people were all about benefits, but they didn't want a job. They were really concerned about benefits, but not a job. So I'm not sure how that works out. But it goes to show you that people are very sensitive to the rights and fundamental rights of others these days. And a lot of young people are very concerned about what's happening with their friends and others. They themselves may say, I'm fine, but I'm worried about these other people around me. So interesting. But what that leads to me, is something very interesting, and it's a pretty big deal. It leads to the concept of being able to make a very, very good first impression. Now in this room, I'm going to say who we have here. We got recruiters and admissions people and IT and marketers and financial aid, financial facility management, business services, international student services, scholarships, EIS, career center, welcome desk, registration, registrar, as they say, right? Which I actually can't say that word because I was born in Georgia. If I miss somebody, I'm sorry. But if you're in this room, you're extraordinarily important because you are that foundational level that makes education happen. Nothing against if you're a faculty person, you've snuck in, no offense, but you can't really do any of that without you. The educational system is just more than people teaching, a lot more. Mostly it's more than that. But the first impression you make when people come in, the first impression you make with each other, how many people here have ever made a good first impression? Who's made a good first impression? Raise your hand, a good first impression. Who's made a bad first impression? Who's made no impression? None. Yeah. Here's what happened to me years ago. A long time ago, I had a boss. I was like 30 years old. My boss said, go recruit these people and bring them to us. I said, I can do it. I can recruit them. And when I met with this person, the first mistake that I made was I ordered the lobster. And I came from a small town and didn't have lobster experience. It's very difficult to be influential in a bib. In a bib, it's hard. In a bib, I got tools and butter. I'm shooting lobster shrapnel in the air. It's very bad. I have on a lobster hat. There's no hat. Anyway, so I'm there, and after this disturbing dinner, I'm face to face with the guy, and I got really excited, and I'm talking, and I launched a spit mortar. I spit up in the air, had a lot of hang time, tried to redirect it, but he's locked in, had a lot of arc on it all the way, like right on his lip. Boom. And he saw it coming. He's like, whoa, man. My boss called, you spit in his mouth? No. It's on his lip. With no help from me, it's a disgusting story. You okay, ma'am? She was hyperventilating over there. With no help from me, we got the guy came on board. And I trained this guy, and I made him great. And they said a couple years later, remember Garrison Wynn, the guy that trained you and made you great? He said, oh yeah, the spitter. So the first impression's that filter through which people see everything else you do. That means when people come on new and people come to you or come to the school, that first impression is huge. And it's important that we have a plan. And one of the best plans you can have for a first impression is to work together and be on the same page. There's nothing more disturbing than working with people who don't agree with each other. You ever had that happen? I went to a bank one time. I was seriously went to a bank, and I was going to get a bank investment product, and I was very young. And there were these two people side by side, like twin bankers. And they were going, oh, yeah. And the one person would say something, they go, oh, no, don't listen to what he's saying. That's not really true. And then they were disagreeing with each other. And I'm like, this is crazy. So no one wants to feel like that people are disagreeing. But also, again, it's that first impression. What does it feel like when they encounter you? How many people here have met with new people that have been hired? You, right? Okay. What does that feel like? Who has been hired and met new people who worked here, right? Yeah. So this guy came to my office just about a year ago. He was a young guy, and he was going to sell business insurance to me. And I was like, okay, well, listen to what the guy says. He called a lot, so I let him in, right? And he showed up, and he had a gigantic Starbucks. It was like and it didn't have a flat, it had like a dome with a hole, like a volcano chino or just a big old. And he was holding it in his lap, and he's talking to me, and it was sweating, and the top was, I'm looking at him, and it's gonna blow. And sure enough, it popped open and leaked all over him. He dumped this it was like thick, gooey, milkshakey Starbucks in his lap. So now he's wiping himself up with a towel, and he's still talking insurance. He's talking to me, and I'm going, wow. And then I told him I wasn't really interested, and he said, why? I said, because you can't manage a beverage. You couldn't manage a drink. I'm not writing you a check. So what happens, we want to make sure that when people come to the school, whether they're showing up as students or whether they're showing up as parents, whether they're showing up to work together, part of your team, whoever it is, that they see that you are on the same page, that you are actually a team, and that they believe that at the very least that you're accepting of them and paying attention to them and doing the things we talked about. Do they feel heard, listened to, cared for, and all that? I thought it was pretty interesting. We looked at some research that showed us that the number two thing that someone wants from someone when they're trying to achieve success is a successful track record. The number two thing they want. Number one thing they want to is to be listened to in the first encounter. That's the number one thing. To be listened to and heard in that first encounter. But that leads to something else, and it is a tough one. It leads us to what I call the best question. We were looking at questions, and we found there were all kinds of interesting questions. And one of the best ones that we saw was this. Now, whether you're interviewing someone or talking to someone or any conversation that you have, doesn't matter what your job is, this was the best question. And that is, you're having conversation, you're asking your normal questions, and then you say, towards the end of the conversation, very simply, is there a question I didn't ask you today that you believe I should have? Is there a question I did not ask you in this meeting that you believe that I should have? It proves you care, gets them to maybe listen more deeply, and might get them to tell you the thing that they were afraid to tell you, or maybe that someone else told, or maybe that another school talked about, whatever it was. So it's a really interesting, is there a question I didn't ask you that you think that I should have? And that question is very, very powerful. It's important to let people know that you're there, that you're listening, that you're interested, that you're concerned. A lot of people, when they fill out surveys or whatever their experience was, I felt the person wasn't interested enough or wasn't paying attention or was not connected enough. Really important. But that leads us to a big, big topic, of course, and it is quite a big one, and that is the concept of dealing with people who may not be like you. So we're all different, and that's really, really true. So let's figure out who in the room today is born in the United States, or born in the United States, raise your hand. Everybody born outside the United States, raise your hand. Okay. Who in this room is over the age of 30? Raise your hand, over 30. Who's under 30? Who's under 20? You have to ask that question, nobody. Okay, who's over 35? Who's over 40? Who's over 50? Who's over 60? Who needs someone to raise their hand for them? That's a sign. Get some help, right? Right? So let's get real. If you are in fact under 30, how might you feel about people over 30? We have the same work ethic. Back in my day, we worked. Back in my day, we had no shoes. Heck, we had no feet. Walked on our nubs back in those days. Didn't get feet in 1971, right? But what do young people say about you? I had a 24-year-old walk in my office and say, Garrison, the reason your computer crashes is because you're old. It's a lot worse. I had a 19-year-old contractor say this, hey, Garrison, when I asked you a question, I wanted the answer, not the history of the answer. That's bad. There's some people right now going, they didn't laugh, they just went, I had that happen to me. So the thing about it is, though, it's hard to walk in another generation's shoes, isn't it? I mean, I was young once. That's what you're thinking. John, I was young once. No, you weren't. You were young whatever that was, which is not now, right? Because history changes people. You want to know how much history changes people? Who's under 30? Under 30, raise your hand. Under 30. Under 30. So what's your name, ma'am? Tara. So how old are you? 29. So when you were 29 years old, so if you're 29, when you were in high school, the message kind of was just say no to drugs. Right? Okay. All right. I'm 58 years old. When I was in high school, my shop teacher showed us how to make a bong, Tara. In Florida. Anybody remember that? Nobody wants to talk about that. It was ridiculous. So just say no to drugs. Here's a bong. That's not similar. You got this idea somehow that we can understand where somebody else was. We can actually be in their shoes and understand where they were and where they came from and all that. And it's very, very difficult to do that, you know. I understand. I was young once. No, you weren't. You were young, whatever that was, which is not now. And these young people ought to what? Ought to be you? Think about that. Ought to be what? They ought to go back in a time machine and come out and be John? John's like, don't do it. I did it. Don't do it. So what's important about that is no matter what, in order to relate to people and be part of a team, we have to be understanding. Not everybody has the same experience. It's impossible to have the same experience. Impossible. And also, it's very different because of kindergarten. You didn't have my kindergarten. That makes us very different, you know? So when you're in kindergarten, you're 29 years old, they say, welcome to kindergarten. We love you no matter what. No matter what, we love you. It's okay. We're going to reward you without accomplishment to build your self-esteem. That's what we do, right? What that means is when you're making macaroni art, where the macaroni goes on the paper or your face, it's still art. That's what they told you. You know what they told me when I was 5 years old? They said, when you see the bright light flash from a nuclear explosion, get under your desk. And then it was nap time. Now, I can't sleep now. Nap time. They told me I would survive a fireball under a wooden desk. They really did this to kids back then. They go, okay, Garrison, you're 5 years old, so when you burst into flames, you can roll and put yourself down. I was 5 years old, Tara. 5. So that means you're not going to share my stress. You know that? You're not. So there's a difference in working together. In the past, you have, some people think young people aren't that stressed, right? You ever seen somebody in their 20s leave a burning building? It's coming down, dude. The whole thing's totally coming down. Let me get a picture of the fire. Bam! Not the same thing as running. So what that means is that we just interpret things differently, right? When you were, if we got a bunch of people in their 20s into a room, it'd be different than a bunch of people in their 50s and 60s. You in kindergarten were told to partner, right? John and I were told to compete. For me to win, you have to lose. You were told to partner. So what does that mean? Get a bunch of people in their 20s in a room, after a couple hours, come out with what? A solution. You get a bunch of people in their 50s and 60s like, that guy's an idiot. It was him. It was him. It was him. So that means you hate each other less than we do, right? And we're likely to solve some problems we didn't. Does that make sense? So give it a hand for Tara, please. Thanks, Tara. But more importantly, what it means that we have to have is we have to have some certain level of acceptance. Does that make sense? Acceptance is really important. I had a lady come up to me after a presentation one time. She was 25 years old, and she meant well. She said, Garrison, I thought you said some things in your presentation I thought were offensive. I said, well, I didn't mean to. I was either trying to make a point or be funny or both. She said, well, no, I wasn't offended. I just thought some people might be. And I said, where are these people? Why am I talking to you? I don't understand that. Now, she meant well, right? Very well. And she was concerned, but I could not relate to that particular situation. So is that tolerance? That's the question. Is that tolerance? So here's actual tolerance. We'll use Tara. Tara, you and I are going to go to lunch and have a business conversation, right? So I'm going to try to accept a couple of things. I'm going to accept the fact that since you're 29 years old, you're probably going to have your phone up, screen up on the table at lunch. It's likely. I'm just saying that's a possibility just based on experience, right? Does that make sense? I, being my age, or maybe say at least one inappropriate story from the 80s, is what people do. One, maybe. So I can say, can you work on, give me some better eye contact, and I'll work on my story, right? I guess I can say that. But at some level, we have to accept each other, or we can't really work together. I can say, give me some eye contact. Come on, come on. You go, oh, no, again. Come on, come on. Oh, no, again. Maybe. But I'd like to make a deal with you and say, I'm willing to try. Make sense? To try to explain things and say things better so it's not going to be offensive. And I just need you to look at me a little bit more, and not the phone. I don't know that we can do, either one of us can do that perfectly. Does that make sense? Yeah. So tolerance is when you make a decision to work with people and accept people for who they are, not who you wish they were. The worst leadership strategy on earth is wishing people were you. That's the worst strategy because they're not. I wish these young people ought to be like me. Well, how are we going to do that, you know? And a level of acceptance. And sometimes there is, tolerance. And sometimes who we are has a lot to do, not necessarily with a generation. Like, I don't really name generations or label them much. But it's because, like, anybody at that age has that issue, right? Come on. If you're in your 20s, you need some help. Is that true? In your 20s, I need some help. My mom brought me to work. I need some help. I'm in my 20s. I need help. I'm in my 20s, right? If you're Generation X, 30 to 50, you did it all yourself, right? 30, I did everything myself. Generation X, somebody made a ham sandwich at 1 and mowed the lawn at 2. And so should you, Tara. Bam. If you're in your 50s and 60s, you believe things should have been handled before you arrived. Who's handling this? This should have been handled. Who is handling this? Tara, who's handling this? Should have been handled. Things should have been handled. I got to play golf. Who's handling this? And if you're 75 years old, things might just fly out of your mouth uncontrollably. My dad was at a restaurant. There was a band playing, and my dad's like, "You all take requests? Well, then play something good." Can't say that, Dad. Can't say that. So it's possible that as well-meaning as we all are, it might be the circumstance that we're actually in. That makes sense? So we might have to have some forgiveness for each other in that period of life that we are actually in. Makes sense? And the truth is our contributions are massive. If you're in your 70s, you changed all that World War II stuff to make automation actually happen. In your 50s and your 60s, you drove it. You're the drivers. You just drove it. If you're in your 30s and 40s, you had to make the technology work. But if you're in your 20s, you're the first generation to believe something no generation's ever believed. That is, if you're in your 20s, you believe every single problem automatically comes with its own set of solutions. Problem, solution. Problem, solution. It's like playing Call of Duty. You may play Call of Duty video game, right? Level up, level up, level up. John plays. What does John not do? He doesn't. That's the question. So it's level up, level up, level up. If I play long enough, I can win. So that means that everybody brings something to the table And that means why we have to work as a team. There's no, and if everybody on your team is identical, then that's not a team. A baseball team doesn't have all the players the same talent. They're all different. They're all together. So really important. But it also leads to the concept of tolerance, and this is what happened to me. So I came to work one day, and my employees all looked at me and said, hey, if no one ever comes to our office ever, how come we're all dressed up like you? I mean, why are we dressed for work? Nobody ever shows up here. And I said, they can sneak up on us. I mean, I didn't have an answer. So what did I do? Anybody know what I did? I dropped the dress code. What happens when you drop the dress code in Houston, Texas? You've got naked people working for you. 21-year-old Trevor comes to work with he had literally had like shorts with polka dots. I said, Trevor, is that your underwear? He goes, technically, no. Carry on. So, does anybody want to know what happened when we dropped the dress code? Anybody know what the result of that was? What now? Productivity went up. Can someone please tell me why that happens? Why I've got someone in their underwear at work and that went up? Comfortable? Is that what it is? Comfortable? And a lady called me and said, how come all my young contractors are coming over to work for you? And I said, because we're all naked. And she hung up. And it's true, we actually attracted some other people to us. So my point is, I was just trying to be tolerant because I really couldn't come up with another reason. I didn't have a reason for a lot of people in an office to be dressed up when no one shows up but the UPS person. I mean, right? That made sense. So sometimes what we have to do, we do have to make that decision, and it's not the easiest decision in the world, to go ahead and say, hey, this is what we actually need to do. We actually need to do that thing. We need to actually do the thing that's important and not focus on what's not important, right? Okay, perfect. Okay, so we're going to do a little experiment here today. So what we're going to do, I'd like you to go ahead and you can be a team with whoever you want to be a team with. So that means that whoever's around, you three can be a team. You kind of look like a team, right? You're totally like a team. So you are your own team. You have a camera. So you can take a picture of yourself or be on that team. All right. So the thing about it is I want you to be whatever team that you are, and I'm going to tell you a story. And the story is about a plumber. Once upon a time, there's a plumber. Plumber shows up. He's got that, bad plumber hair and low-riding plumber pants. He shows up. Here to fix a garbage disposal. The guy says, whatever. You put anything weird in that disposal, he says, and just fix it. Plumber comes in, pulls stuff out, says, you got like a paper cup in here, you got garbage in here. You know the difference between a garbage can and a garbage disposal? He says, just fix it. So the plumber fixes it, and he does it in record time. He doesn't clean up after himself that well, and he comes back the next day. Is that disposal working? The guy says, yeah. But anything weird in there again? No. End of story. Now, there is no more information in the story. The power of this is going to be in its vagueness. The question is, did the plumber do a good job? There's no more information. You cannot win. It is simply an opinion poll. So what I want you to do is go ahead and talk amongst yourselves, just briefly, really quickly, and see if your little group can come up with a number. And the rating system is this. 5 means the plumber did a good job. 4, not that good. 3, less than not that good. 2, bad, and 1, really bad. That's the rating system. So just talk for a second. Just take a minute and just talk. Just do it real quick. Just literally take just one minute. 1 minute to do it. Just 1 minute. 1 single minute. Okay. Does that say howdy? Howdy. All right. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to start pointing in random directions and just call out your number. What's your number? 5. What's your number? 4. 5. 4. 4. 5. 5. 2. 2. 6. Very special group over here. What's your number? 3. What's your number? 5. What's your number? 3.75. It's the IT team, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. The IT folks are here. What's your number? 4. Did you hear? She went 4. Okay, thank you. What's your number? 5. What's your number? 4. What's your number? 4. What's your number? 4. What's your number? 4. What's your number? Blue. What do you guys do over here? What department is that? What's your number? Blue. It's blue. Did I win? Okay, sorry. What's your number? 4.5. Thank you. What's your number? 4. What's your number? 4. What's your number? 4. What's your number? 4. What's your number? What's your number? 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 5. Number? 4. Number? 2. She went 2. What's your number? I just saw someone go, it's 4. That's not good. Okay, what's your number? My favorite, what's your number? Say it, say the number, say it. What's your number? 4, what's your number? 4. Sorry, what's your number? 4, what's your number? You must be from Germany, is that correct? So the number is 3. It's a German 3. What's your number? 4.5. What's your number? 5. What's your number? 3.5. What's your number? 4. What's your number? 2. What's your number? 4. What's your number? You don't care, do you? You don't care. What's your number? It's like, I don't know, man. What do you want? 4? What do you want from me? 4? You got 4. That's great, man. What's your number? 4. Okay. All right. So did you see a lot of 4s? So if we had to kind of come up with a number for the whole room, what's our number? 4. About 4? Okay. So 4 out of 5 stars is the plumber. So what did you like about this plumber? Did the job? He followed up? It worked? He was quick? He asked questions? You didn't have to pay him. Wasn't part of the thing. So, what now? Yeah, yeah, right. Why he gave you some information. Yeah. So very good. And also he showed up. Did you know that? Anybody ever a plumber not show up? This really happened to me. I had a plumbing problem and went in there, and there's a guy in our bathroom, and he's down there looking at the toilet. And he looks up at me, and I said, "What's going on?" He goes, "I think you need a plumber." Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Are you a pre-plumber? Really? It's like a pre-plumber. But he showed up. So I'd like to talk about another plumber. It's a new plumber in town, by the way. He's plumber number 2. The first thing about plumber number 2, he's good looking. Oh, he's hot. And he's got a brand new plumbing truck, shiny, with a picture of his good looking self on it. Matter of fact, here's this picture. That's the picture. That's it right there. But the most important thing about plumber, he's not just good looking with a new truck. Someone you know referred you to this plumber number 2. And the person who's your good friend said, you know what, he's not just good looking, you want to try plumber number 2. For your next plumbing need, you should try plumber number 2. He's a fantastic plumber, best plumber in town. That's what your good friend told you about plumber number 2. So the question is for you, how many people for your next plumbing need might give plumber number 2 just to try? Raise your hand. That's like 80%. What happened? What happened? How did a plumber that got 4 out of 5 stars, we rated this big thing, and lose 80% of their business, someone who's done nothing? Recommendation? He's good looking. He's good looking. My sink's messed up and the bathroom's terrible. She's smashing her own bathroom. I got probably with a hammer beating her plumbing to the. He's good looking. But I mean, no, really, I just watched that happen. I saw 80% of you raise your hand. 4 to 5 stars, plumber number 1, detailed story. You talked about what you liked about him, which was a lot apparently at 4 to 5 stars, and you 80% dumped this plumber for someone who's done nothing. What is that? Right. Right? Well, I think maybe what you might have experienced is a behavioral thing. You see, there's some things about plumber number 1 that many of you didn't care for, that you might not have discussed, that you held in your hearts. I'm sorry, sounds ridiculous. There's some things about plumber number 1 you weren't thrilled with. Is that correct? Be honest. He made a mess. Now it's coming out. Made a mess. Made a mess.
Kind of berated you.
Berated.
Yeah, you shoved stuff down in here.
Yeah.
Know the difference between garbage disposal and garbage.
Exactly word for it. That's what he said. Anybody else? What do you think about what was the problem? Come on. Spill it. Appearance. You like a better looking plumber. I get that. You like a handsome. It's true. If somebody shows up and, if you show up and look as bad as humanly possible, it's the issue, right? Anything else? Pointed out, thank you, ma'am. Pointed out your flaws. He came in immediately, right? And pointed out the flaws, the weaknesses, the problems. Yep. And even though you couldn't help yourselves because of the way it was set up, you gave him 4 out of 5 stars, right? And the minute you had a shot, the minute somebody said, hey, you want to try plumber? Yeah, I do. I do. Plumber number 2, that's good. So what that means is your behavior will betray your skill. If people like your behavior, they start to look for reasons, right? If they don't like it, they start to look for reasons to prove, right, that there's something wrong. And what happens is when we're working as a team together, sometimes it's behavioral stuff, and it happens to all of us, right? We've all had our issues. How many of you have ever felt you had a bad day? Right? How many of you have felt that your teammates knew that? How many of them said something? How many of them were right when they said it? I'm having a bad day. So the thing about it is it's very possible to do that. But what's really important to understand, that if you're going to be behind a single vision and work as a team together and to be as successful as you possibly can, you're going to have good days and bad days. And you're going to have to be as supportive as you possibly can. And sometimes just because someone's having a bad day or a bad moment doesn't mean they lose all of your support. But you can see how it's very possible they can. So 2 things to keep in mind. Number 1, I need to behave in a way that works. And sometimes it means you're going to have to say you're sorry. And that's a hard thing for people to say, right? It can be very, very tough to say, hey, listen, man, sorry about that. I had a bad moment there. I didn't mean to say all that stuff. I just had a weird day. Make sense? Okay. And sometimes you have to say this. Say, sorry, I kind of came off the wrong way on that. So what that means is that we have to tolerate each other, but also we have to make sure that we are a team, and teams have good days and bad days, and teams stick together because they have the vision, because they have the actual goal. And that means that you have to stand up sometimes for the overall team. You may not be thrilled with this person or this day or that moment or that segment, but it's about being committed to the team and to success. The people who are the most successful teams have a certain level of commitment, that they are committed to the team being successful in general. And that's what's important. Are we committed? Sometimes it's about people, and people are going to be flawed and have problems and issues. But the overall goal is this school has to run well. And you guys do a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, you're talking about really the school doesn't run without you. The people in this room actually make the school function. Without you, you have teachers and you have students, and that's interesting. And that's important, and that seems like what it would be to make things happen. But in a situation that you have around here, it's not going to happen with them. You're going to have to be there. It's going to have to be you. You are basically that foundational level of the educational system. And it means we have to work together, be on the same team, and be supportive of the college in general. one of the things that happens to us is something we like to call jellyfish communication. And here's what jellyfish communication is. Everybody, hey, good to see you. Listen, everybody gather around. We got some new thing coming to us, brand new process coming to us from up above, from the head of the, or God or somebody from some coming down to us. We got to do it. Whatever, just do the best you can. You know what I mean? I mean, it's not my idea. It's not my idea. Do not blame me. Not my idea. I don't even agree with it. To be honest with you, I just don't. So do the best you can. If you need me, I'll be drinking in my car. Okay. Then I come back and get mad at you because you didn't do it right. So a jellyfish communicator is a spineless person that doesn't stand up for the change, right? If you want to lose all your influence, do this. What's your name? Dawn. Hey, Dawn. Hey, Dawn, listen, they told me that we got to do this new thing. You know, that's what they told me. You know, it's not my fault, right? They're going to blame me, right? They just told me to tell you. I know it's different. I don't even agree with it. I think it's stupid. But they told me to tell you to do it. And whatever. I just don't want you to be upset with me. Okay? Because it's not my fault. It came from, so it's just not, I mean, the truth is I have no spine. I got no spine. I'm just like a butt and a brainstem. I got nothing. You should probably be in charge of the project. Thank you. Yeah. So it's very easy to just lose all of your influence. You can just throw it all away. What you have to do is this. Hey, Don, good to see you. Brand new thing we're doing. It's different for sure, right? They got faith in me, and I got faith in you. They got faith in us. I know it's different, but I think we've done everything else they've asked us to do, right? Makes sense? Yeah, so do the best you can. And I'm there. If you need me, I'll be drinking in my car. Okay, So the thing about it is, are you willing to stand up and say, hey, okay, we can do it? You know, you can go cry at home or whatever, right? But you are just by nature influential, whoever you are. Years ago, I worked for AT&T a long time ago and had a boss who did this to me. I'll never forget as long as I live. He goes, everybody gather around. We got some changes coming up. It's going to be different. It's going to be real different. I'm taking a couple weeks off. What? Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable. We're all just going, what's happening? You know. So this person, single human being, just put the entire fear of everything into an entire group of people. And bad day or whatever, but this person, I mean, I don't get the whole details. I mean, he cried for 5 minutes. He had a crying speech. And he goes, I'm sorry, everybody. He apologized afterwards. You do the best you can. You know, like, what? So the thing about it is it's really important. The thing that happens when two people are talking or a group of people are talking to make sure we're not doing something that creates that mood. We're going to have good days and bad days. And I'm not talking to you like Texas A&M. I'm talking to the world right now. Every organization has people to stand up and deal with the changes that happen as best we possibly can to work collectively to achieve an actual goal. Extremely important, really, really important. And it's because of that we have to ask ourselves the questions. You really cannot lead by example if you're a bad example. My shop teacher in high school had 3 fingers. Talking about safety, we're talking about saw safety. Everybody pick up your saw. I'm not touching that thing, you're missing a finger. Yeah. So important. We talked about a lot of stuff today. And it's a very important thing. I want everybody to go ahead. I want you to go ahead and I want you to put your hands up like this. Put your hands like this. Then give me your wallets. I'm kidding. All right. I want you to fold your arms like this. What I want you to do now is to fold your arms the unnatural, uncomfortable way that you just wouldn't do it. So go like this. Like this. Some of you guys are like, I can't. Go like this. My favorite is this. So I love this. Go like this and go like that. What does that feel like? Weird, strange, wrong? This is what change feels like. If you stood just like this for the next, let's say, hour and a half, 2 hours, right? You wouldn't know the difference. You know, if you stood with your arms crossed like this for a couple hours, after a while it would feel like the way you cross your arms when you do it comfortably. You know why? Because change is not the issue. It's our resistance to change that's the issue. My dad is 85 years old on the computer every day. Yep, every day. 12 years ago, well, he wasn't. 12 years ago, my dad sent me his very first email. He just said, damn it. That's all. 2 words. 2 words. 2 words. The last Christmas, my dad bought all my family's presents online. Because he bought me a nightgown because he's 85 years old from Amazon.com. My dad knows that action and adaptability create opportunity. That action and adaptability create opportunity. Are you flexible enough along the way to the goal? Can you move and flex? As things change, can you change with it? Extremely important, very important. We talked about a lot of things today. In order to be effective and successful, what the most successful people actually do, what do? They do listen to people and make them feel heard. They are very, very clear. They do care. They do understand people. They do accept people as who they are, not wishing that they were someone else. They do stand together as a committed team. They look out for each other. When times are tough, they do the best they can, not knowing that every day is going to be a perfect day. They get behind the vision. They make sure that when they're talking to people, they understand what those people actually value, and they make sure that people feel valuable. And they make sure that just because someone's different from you, doesn't mean you cannot connect with them with the commonalities that all humans actually have. That's what the most successful people literally do on a regular basis. And a university like yours is impressive. You've done a lot of things right and a lot of things great. Just so you know, the word on the street is they like you. People think that you're good, that you do a good job. I have heard some universities don't have that reputation. You do. And you've apparently had it for a long time, which is good. So you're doing something really right. The key is to make sure that you maintain that and keep that and be open, because things change, students change, needs and desires change. We have to take the greatness we have and kind of change it so it matches the situation that we're actually in. Important. But here at the end, a couple of things. If you believe in your own value, it's a lot easier to show it to others and understand what you actually do. You are in the educational system. That means you are literally manufacturing the humans that will inherit the world. That's part of your process. That makes what you do literally the foundation of civilization. Nothing against people who are selling insurance or building widgets. And if you're in this room and you're not in the educational system, I'm not talking to you. Every now and then it's like a drunk realtor wanders in or something. But, you know, that's actually, I thought you're pretty good. Who are you? You're a realtor. But I'm saying that you need to understand how incredibly important what you do is, and it's that foundational level of civilization that makes the world move forward. I speak to corporate America all the time, and they go, I hope you're talking to the colleges too. We need those. That's who's coming. That's who we need. Extremely important. But that leads us to something else, and that is just making sure that the vision stays in the best direction it can because you actually believe in it. Our belief system creates our experience. What we actually believe in creates experience. You've got a lot to believe in and a lot of reasons to believe it. Again, you're doing one of those things that's just foundational. Without what you do, there is no future for anything. The people come out of here that are going to create that future. Important. We talked about a lot of stuff here today. If you want notes of the program, you can go to gwin.link/get notes, and you can download our notes under Garrison Wynn. It's going to be an article and about 9 pages of specific notes. It doesn't work with Android today, but if you have an iPhone, you can literally send a text to 90210. That's 90210. I'm not kidding. And put my name, Garrison Wynn, the body of text. Notes will be on your phone in about 10 seconds. Clay, if you got a rotary phone, I cannot help you. He's in the hall. His phone's in the hall, on the wall, in the hall. Important. If you're looking for people and employees, you go to indemandbusiness.com. Please join me on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all that. Say nice things on Twitter. That's good. I've got one more story and we're through. In order to be successful, you have to set yourself up to win. In other words, you got to set yourself up to be successful no matter what and put your effort behind that. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be in a fair fight. I want to be in a lopsided battle I can win. In other words, I want to set myself up to be successful. I want the school to be successful. I want to position myself so if there's a problem, I can survive that problem. If something comes up, I can get through it. So set yourself up to win first. Put your effort behind it second. So final story. So years ago, my wife and I were at an event, and she was clapping, and one ring hit another ring, and the diamond fell out. Didn't know the next day, went back to look for the diamond. They said, sorry, we swept and mopped 4 times. It's a 45,000 square foot parquet wood floor. We had 3 more events, and at the end of the day, a giant Zamboni waxing machine drives all over for like 2 hours. You're not going to find your diamond. She's Generation X. I can find it. Gets on the floor, starts crawling around, and people are looking at me and go, that's just so sad, that's just sad, that's just so sad. After 50 minutes on the floor, she saw a glimmer in the corner of that giant room and found the diamond. They couldn't believe it. She's like, told you. I'm like, why? 2 lessons of the story I'll leave you with. If something's important enough, if you believe it enough, and it really, really means that much to you, if it really does, the vision and the power and the ability and the drive and the talent that comes out of you is amazing. You can do anything. But also, if you buy a really big diamond, they're easy to find. You can find a big diamond. Yeah. So set yourself up to succeed put your influence first, okay? Set yourself up to succeed no matter what, and put your effort behind that. I'm Garrison Wynn. Thank you so much. Thank you.